Greetings loopers. Welcome back to another brain-freaking Giada tutorial. This time I want to tackle the almighty action editor, and show you how to use it. Ready, set, go. First of all, let me answer a very basic question. What is inaction? Well, in Giada, inaction is everything you do with your keyboard or your MIDI controller. So, things like starting, stopping, muting a channel, those are all actions. Likewise, sending MIDI events like note on or note off, are actions too. The action editor is a tool that helps you writing actions by hand, or edit actions you have previously recorded during a live session. Actions are stored and managed by the sequencer, and through the action editor you are just looking inside of it. In this tutorial, I will cover the process of writing and editing actions by hand, as the live recording part will be addressed in future chapters. I have prepared a very simple project, here. Some sample channels and one MIDI channel. You will see how the action editor shows different tools, whether you are editing actions in a sample channel or in a MIDI channel. Let's start with the sample channel. Click on the channel's main button, and select Edit Actions to open the action editor window. The upper part contains common tools. In particular, this drop-down menu lets you define what kind of action you want to add. The other drop-down menu sets the grid thickness. The button next to it toggles grid snapping. I'll let you figure out how the zoom buttons work. Remember that you can also zoom by moving the mouse wheel over any widget. The lower part contains specific tools for each channel type. Here, for a sample channel, you have a start-stop editor, a mute editor, a volume editor. More tools will be available in the future, as Giada keeps growing. Now, notice how these widgets reflect the structure of the main sequencer, the running part, and the covered part. Also, if I change the sequencer size, the action editor will update accordingly. Look. Okay, time to do something serious. I will lay down some 90s hip-hop samples. I start with the drums part. These channels are in one-shot mode, which fits well for drumming. Adding an action is easy. Select the type, then, click with the left mouse button on the Start-Stop editor, where you want to add it. I've enabled grid snapping. It helps me to better align actions to the grid. Now, press play to run the sequencer and listen to the result. Good. I do the same with the snare sample. Whoops, forgot the grid snapping. You can delete an action by right-clicking on it. Now it's time for the hi-hats. Wow, so East Coast. You may have noticed that a new button appeared as soon as I added an action to a channel. That's the so-called Read Actions button. If you disable it, Giada no longer reads the actions for that channel. Let me show you what I mean. Notice how the channels behave exactly like if they were in loop mode. That's because I've enabled a particular option. Open the configuration panel. Click on the Behaviors tab and that's it. If enabled, all channels in one-shot mode that contain actions are treated as loops. Look what happens if I deselect it. Now, channels stop as soon as the button is toggled. Take a look at my other tutorials about loop modes and one-shot modes. Okay, let's experiment with something different. This is a voice sample, longer than the previous ones.
Hip-hop was set out in the dark. They used to do it out in the park.
It is currently set to one-shot mode, but you can also edit actions for channels in loop modes. There is one difference. If in loop mode, you cannot edit start-stop actions. That's because channel in loop modes are meant to be played live. Let's switch back to one-shot mode, and see what else you can do with the action editor. Another useful action is the so-called kill channel. It basically stops the sample abruptly.
Hip-hop was set out in the dark.
Another one is the key release, which is actually useful only when the channel is in one-shot press mode. Let me change the channel mode for a second. In this mode, the action editor shows a different item. This is a combination of a key press and a key release actions. You can move it around or resize it by dragging the edges. While editing a one-shot press mode channel, you can add only this type of action. If you switch back to another channel mode, you can still see the key release, but it's just useless. Key release has a meaning only for one-shot press mode channels. However, key release actions are editable for clarity, in case something is wrong. You can also write the key press key release combination by hand. It will be converted when you switch back to one-shot press mode. What's left? The volume editor and the mute editor. As always, left-click adds a point, right-click deletes it. Points can be dragged around.
Hip-hop out in the dark. They used to do it out in the park. Hip-hop out in the dark. They used to do it out in the park.
Finally, let's play a bit with the note editor. This tool is for editing MIDI events, so it's tied to MIDI channels. As of now, the note editor contains only the piano roll. More tools will be available in the future, as Giada keeps growing. This is a resizable widget because it's very long. You can scroll the piano roll by right-clicking anywhere and dragging vertically. As in the action editor, left-click adds a note. Right-click deletes it. Notes are resizable and draggable around. Notice how there is no Read Actions button in the MIDI channel. That's because a MIDI channel can contain only MIDI events, and you stop reading them with the play button. A Read Actions button would have been a useless clone of the play button. Now that the notes are recorded, they will be sent to the MIDI channel. The channel will forward them to VST plugins, or to the output MIDI ports. I will cover all that stuff in my future tutorials on MIDI routing. For now, have fun with the action editor, and enjoy a little sample of what you can do with it. See you on the next episode of Giada, your hardcore loop machine.